Good morning. You're getting poked by me, Laura. Thanks for coming. If you're listening to this on a preview, please click over to Patreon and look me up under Nice Needles. You can become a member there for free. And even if you're not the biggest fan of my podcast, my voice, or my particular way, I am giving away free advice, guidance, support, and health care light in your life. That's mental, physical, emotional, spiritual. All from the perspective of a practice that I have run since 2012. Been doing so less since COVID hit. I lost my actual physical practice, and so I work with people online, in person, wherever I happen to be. But for now, we're doing the podcast, and I'm going to poke you from here. So today I wanted to talk about balance. I had a question about what is balance, and I thought that was a good one to jump off with. I've got a short list going of some ideas generated on a live that I did a few days ago. So if you have any particular questions or topics you'd like to hear discussed, something that maybe you have had trouble with, that you don't understand, that you can get answers for, just maybe insight that you'd like from a different perspective, this is the place to be. I plan on getting a place for you to be able to send me snail mail to ask questions. Until then, you can log on to Patreon and ask there. YouTube, I also upload the videos that I live stream, so you can also subscribe to my YouTube and you can ask questions there. You also have access to my email address on my website. Everything is Nice Needles, so very easy to find. niceneedles.com, Nice Needles on Patreon, Nice Needles on TikTok, Nice Needles / Laura Drago on YouTube. So balance, let's talk about it. Oftentimes people think of balance as, like perfect balance. Like if I have the analogy of a seesaw on the playground, right? Perfect balance is you have two people who weigh exactly the same, or they're able to balance their weight in such a way that that seesaw sits right in the middle, right? No one's tipped down, no one's tipped up. But when you are in a state of perfect balance, such as that, is there movement? Is there life? Is there action? No. So are we actually trying to seek balance? Is that really the goal? My very light philosophical argument for the day would be no, it's not to achieve perfect balance, because I would argue that perfect balance is not actually possible. What I would say is, if we use that same metaphor, but we think about like the pendulum on a clock swinging left to right. If a toddler comes along and bats at that pendulum, right, and it goes so high that it's hitting the side of the clock, that's a little too extreme, right? Those are big sweeps. So think sort of bipolar kind of thinking, right? Extreme highs and extreme lows. So we definitely don't want the pendulum going in extremes. We want to do what? We want to bring that pendulum more into balance. We want the swinging to be less. We want the extremes to come down. And I would argue with health and wellness, whether that be mental, physical, emotional, or spiritual, that we're looking for a more slow rhythm. We're looking for a more even, less destructive, more manageable pace. So to me, that is balance. So when I have patients come in, we don't just, so I have people fill out about 15 pages of paperwork with as much of their medical history as I can get. Every part of the body, from head to toe, inside and out. I want to get a full picture of what they've gone through, what their bodies are telling me. And I ask them questions like, do you like your job? What do you do for a living? That can tell me a lot. If you're a watchmaker and you're using your hands all the time and you have hand pain, that's going to be good insight into how not just I can help you today with your pain, but maybe what can we do to help you in your workplace, right? That's a part of holistic healthcare. That's a part of balance, is understanding the full picture. And this is the kind of thing that I'm trained to do, and that people who are trained like me are trained to do, to look at the whole person. A lot of times now in medicine, people complain that, number one, the doctors aren't following the advice they're giving, and they don't really have any follow-up, right? It's like eat well, exercise, while maybe that doctor comes in smelling like cigarette smoke and is like 60 pounds overweight, right? We're not getting connected, deep advice that has follow through. We're just getting words. We're getting a lot of rhetoric, and the rhetoric isn't followed up by action and change. So when I have someone come in, not only do we focus on the full medical history, what has your body gone through? What is your constitution? What are we working with? But also, what is your life like right now? How do you feel about your life? And then so based on those things in context, then what are your health goals? What is it that you're seeking to do? Because sometimes taking away a condition isn't reasonable because of age, because of length. And so really what we want to do is maybe feel better. We want to reduce pain. We want to reduce discomfort. We want to improve mobility or, life experience. So focusing on goals, understanding what you're looking at doing is really important and critical to solving a problem and to understanding what does balance and wellness look like and mean for you. And I promise you, it does look different for every person. And sometimes it's, also sitting with those expectations and really talking through them in real time, which can be helpful, even if you have to lower or change an expectation of what you think of something in your life. If it's something that's more chewable and manageable, and when you sit down and you really look at it, rather than holding yourself accountable to an unexamined goal, it can really take a lot of weight off. So really digging into these concepts when you first come in for treatment is really important. To set expectations for where we are. And I will say that very often, not always, especially with chronic illnesses, a lot of the things that I look at with people in terms of, again, getting back to this concept of balance, have to do with really examining the world that we live in. And I don't mean that in a global sense. I mean that in like a local, global sense, like the world you live in, the world you put yourself in, the world you create. And it's my hope that within my lifetime, maybe towards, into the second half of my life, because I'm halfway through. I mean, they say if you have a child over 40, the chances of you living to be 100 or older are very great. So my chances of living to be 100 are apparently very great. I don't know how I feel about that. But there are a lot of things that we put into our world now that are very unconscious and accepted as normal, and that we don't question, that I would argue and challenge, and I do, especially my patients who come in with chronic issues, that we really need to look at our day-to-day habits, because we live, and I just talked about this in another episode. It's actually going to be put up on my site in about 7 minutes because I have auto post, and it's about medical philosophy. Do you have a medical philosophy? Do you have a health philosophy? And in that podcast, I talked about capitalism, because capitalism and health are very, very, very connected, especially for Americans. We are over consumers. We are over marketed to, and this is not side talk. This is central to our lives and our health. And if there's one thing I hope that changes in my lifetime, it's this awakening, this awareness, because so much of our health profile and our balance in our life, our digestive health, our immune health, our general feeling of wellness, strength, can be affected by the things that we consume and that we put into our homes and in our bodies and on our skin and on our hair and in our cars and in our mouths every single day. But we don't look at it because we're sold these things as though it's normal. I've actually seen commercials, especially in the last 10 years, really hyper focus on things that have started to gain traction just among people, not among companies or advertisers. that have to do with things like cleaning. Like there was a whole series of a woman who used to be on SNL. I can't think of her name. She did some commercials for Clorox bleach. And they were sort of making fun of people who don't use bleach and saying that if you really want it clean, you need bleach. Now, I'm not here to talk about bleach, okay? But what I will say is that is a direct reaction to people understanding that they do not need to buy chemicals that come in plastic bottles, which not only pollute the water and the air and our skin and our lungs and our organs, but that there are actually alternatives for that do none of those things and still serve the purpose that we use it for. There was another ad campaign about high fructose corn syrup some years back. I don't know if anybody in the US remembers that. And they put out a PR campaign trying to convince the general public that there was nothing wrong with high fructose corn syrup, that it was this was literally their slogan, a calorie is a calorie. Because in this country, Americans believe that calories have something to do with nutrients of the body, that calories are what we should count. Because again, we have a corporate machine that has us rigged and focused in a way to sell products. It has nothing to do with health. It has to do with keeping you consuming. So when people talk about their health issues, we go over things like, and I would encourage you to do this. You can do this with yourself. And you can come here and ask me for solutions. I don't have all of them, but I have many because I've implemented these things in my life. And over the course of the last 15 years of my life, I've completely changed my home environment, my skincare environment, my hair care, like every single thing, how I clean, what I use. I did it one thing at a time, and then all of a sudden it was like an avalanche. Then all of a sudden everything changed because you see how possible it is, how much money you're saving, how much healthier you are, certain problems that disappear, energy that comes back. So what are we putting on our hair? You know, what is that in that plastic bottle that you've got? What are we putting on our skin? What's in that lotion that you're putting on top of your skin? Your skin is your biggest organ. It's an organ. It's huge. It's massive. And anything you put on your skin, for the most part, is going to have to go through your liver. In another episode a few weeks ago, I talked about being a limited resource, that you only have so many heartbeats, so many breaths, right? We're limited. We're batteries. We only have so much energy. And so every bit of energy that you spend processing or metabolizing chemicals, toxins, whether it's on your skin, on your hair, on your nails, in the air that you breathe, in the water that you drink, in the food that you eat, that is energy that you cannot get back. So if you could preserve the energy that you're spending on toxins, on the ones you can control, why would you not want to do that? If the goal is a better balanced health profile and life. So if someone comes in, say, with skin issues, the first thing I'm going to look at is, well, the first two things. First, what are we eating? Let's really take a look at our diet. Every single thing that goes into your mouth. Are you consuming phenylalanine on a regular basis? Do you know what phenylalanine is? It's in most diet sodas. It's in many gums. It's a sweetener, but it's not. It's actually a chemical agent of war that poison people's nerves too slowly. But it's sweet. It's a nerve toxin, neurotoxin. And we use it to sweeten things. These are the kinds of things American consumers do not know about their food because our food laws are so weak, because they are so skewed towards profit. A company finds something that's very cheap to produce, or that is a byproduct, something that is not, really consumable, but they find out that it's sweet or that it helps things to stay stuck together. And so they use it as a binder. It's a poison. Oops, it's just a little bit of poison. You'll get rid of it. It doesn't kill you today or tomorrow or the next day. It might add up to cancer in 10 or 15 years, but who's going to trace that? Who's going to hold us accountable for that? It's a lot like food colorings. A lot of people have become aware of food colorings and how it can affect behavioral health in children, as well as a lot of other issues with the brain and the nervous system. So one of the reasons I try whenever I can not to go head on into these things with patients is it can be very depressing. But there's also a lot of empowerment in it. And the more we awaken as a culture to these issues and that they are solvable, that we have agency, that we have choice, that we do not have to choose these things. There are things out there that we can consume, that we can put on our bodies and in our bodies that are more natural and whole. We're consuming less plastic. And the best benefit of all, our health improves. The pendulum slows down. We don't have these massive swings in our hormones. We're not affecting our endocrine system and our hormones by forcing it to process all kinds of garbage. You know, scents in the air. I was at someone's house about 9 years ago. Someone in my family that I didn't know that well. And we stayed with them for a few days. And they had these air fresheners around the whole house that would automatically go off. And they would spray this air freshener into the air. And this person happened to have a lot of health issues. And because I care about them, and this was everywhere in the house, it was affecting me as well, I said, you know, there's a lot in that that's going in the air and going into your lungs, and that might be a part of why, you know, you're having these issues. I don't typically say things or offer advice when I'm not invited. I just happened to be there and it was someone I knew and cared about. So I thought it was a safe environment to say that. It wasn't. They didn't want to hear it. So one thing I had to recognize very early on is that I'm one person. I'm one physician with knowledge and wisdom, yes, and it's great and it's deep and it's awesome and it can change your life and it can help you to make simple changes. But I'm one person up against billions of dollars of advertising, of manipulation, of coercion to make you believe that these products are the only way. And so what is balance? Like I said, balance is bringing things more in line, right? It's reducing the big swings. And one of the best ways to do that without dependency on a doctor, on a physician, on a service, on a product, is to look at your day-to-day life and look at the things that you're being sold and marketed and understand that if you don't understand what's in it, that's a problem. You're inviting very complex substances into your environment that can have a severe impact on your health profile. And I've never really met anyone who said that they're allopathic, Western, MD, or NP, whoever it is that's responsible for primary health really talks about these things. Because you know why? Because they are a part of this system of toxicity. I worked in a hospital over the summer, and the amount of chemicals and plastic being in that environment really showed me how unsustainable Western medicine is. So I even get a little bit lost when trying to talk in a really general way. It's easier for me when I'm talking specific. So if you have a specific question, or if you would like a little bit of specific feedback, write to me on Patreon. I would love to go over something in a really personal way, to be specific about it. But it's a soup, to quote my TikTok friend. It's a soup. We are all in this soup. You know, it's the pink water that the fish are swimming in. It's real tough to see. But when you start to look around at the number of, just look for plastic bottles in your house, right? Plastic bottles in and of themselves are such a hazard and a danger to our world. We're getting to a tipping point. I'd say we're at the tipping point. We're probably past it. But what's inside those bottles is as destructive for the most part. There's almost nothing in a bottle that you can't make yourself and make in a more healthy fashion, or find in a more healthy fashion that will save you money, will give you more energy, and will improve your health profile and bring your body back into balance. So again, I didn't mean for this to be a consumer-based, capitalist-based conversation around health, but they're so tied. They're so tied. Our brains are very, very controlled. You know, we live in a time where we're living with a cult in the United States. There's a huge cult that has been, brains have been co-opted, bodies have been co-opted by a force. And I think one of the reasons we're susceptible to that, you know, some of us are more susceptible than others, but I think one of the reasons that we're so susceptible to that as a society is capitalism. It is the drone and the drumbeat that is consistent and ever present of purchasing products. And we believe that is all that we have. We believe that we need all of these things. And helping to pierce that for the sake of health, I think health can be one of the easier ways to do it. It just takes a long road for people to get there. Like, by the time people come into my office, typically they're in so much pain, or they're so exhausted, they're so fed up, to the point that they're like, oh, I'll go try this person who practices Chinese medicine. I don't really know what that is, but I've tried everything else and nothing else works. So it's like giving up, right? Like, I'm giving up, I'm coming to you, okay, fine. And it's not just me in my practice, it's many, many people who go this way, and they get to the end of their rope and they're so shocked when they find relief almost instantly from something that is not surgical, that is not a drug, and that they don't have to put any effort into other than showing up for the appointment. They can just lay on a table and I can touch them or put needles in them, and they're like, oh my God. Or they can take herbs, plant medicine, and symptoms go away and they feel better. It's like, wait, what? You mean I don't need pharmaceuticals? That is an entry point where I can pierce through, because the pain or the discomfort is so bad. But when people are comfortable, when they don't see that this has a cumulative effect, it's real hard to pierce that. And that is really what people like me are up against, because we don't have trillion, billion dollar machines to market to you. All we have is truth. All we have is history and ancient traditions that work. That's why they're still around. It's why people like me commit ourselves to it. But we don't have ad agencies. We don't have stock market investments that can grow, that you might want to invest in and make you look at that product, right? It's not a product. Getting through to the American mind or the Western mind with things that are just true and that aren't flashy or shiny and don't have a jingle or a mascot, it can be very, very difficult. The truth is generally very simple and plain and easy. Like, it's simple, it's not easy. Because seeing the simple thing can be pretty tough when your purview is filled with a lot of noise and music and sales tactics, brain control. So this was a ramble. Hopefully it makes sense with balance and what I'm trying to get to here. We have to step out of, the tornado to see its size and scope and which way it's moving. There's a lot in this. If you have any questions, if you have something specific that you'd like to talk about, replacements for food or products. We talked about sugar the other day. I gave some examples of that. I am here for that. Bring it. I want to answer. I want to help. Until then, you're going to get a lot of philosophical discussion. And let me know what you need to know. I'm here for it. And I will have guests on if it's over my head or my scope. Happy to do it. All right. On to the next. I hope you enjoy getting poked. Take care.